Hey everyone, welcome to CNR Horror Stories. This is C.
And this is R.
Today we have a special Christmas stories to tell you. Sit back, relax, and turn off the lights.
Please don't forget to subscribe and click that bell notification so you can be notified when we upload a new video.
Let's begin. Many years ago in Ireland, there was a wealthy man who lived in a small village. He owned every single plot of land surrounding the village and rented them out to poor farmers at a tidy profit. The man lived in the biggest house in the village with his lovely wife, his two strong sons, and his small, sickly daughter. He was kind to all of his children and treated his wife like a queen. However, in business he was ruthless and cunning. He made a lot of money by charging the villagers high rents and treated all of his tenants as if they were slaves. If any one of them was behind with their rent, he would throw them out of their houses without a moment's notice. The villagers hated the rich man and despised his cruel and miserable ways. He often threw lavish parties, inviting only his friends and family, and living like a king while the poor villagers had to scrimp and save just to keep their bellies full. All they could afford was a meager diet of bread and potatoes. One year there was a potato blight and all of the crops were affected. As winter set in, the villagers were starving to death. The rich man paid no attention to the troubles of his tenants and responded by raising the rents. Then, as if that wasn't enough, he threw a Christmas party for his friends and family, where they enjoyed an enormous feast and drank sarcastic toasts to the plight of the starving tenants. That night, one villager arrived at the door bearing a gift. He said it was a Christmas present for the rich man's daughter. The girl opened the present and found a sock puppet inside. The villager said he had knitted it himself and asked if he might have some food. In return, the rich man handed the villager one single solitary potato and sent him on his way. Although it was a hideous old rag, the daughter seemed to love the sock puppet. She named it Charlie and put it on her hand, showing it to everyone at the party. That night, after the party was over, the father was going to bed. He paused at his daughter's bedroom door and looked in on her. She was fast asleep. Just as he was about to leave, something disturbed him. The sock puppet was still on her hand, and his plastic eyes seemed to be staring straight at him. He ignored it and walked out, thinking he was just imagining things. That night, as the rich landlord and his wife slept in their chamber, they heard a knock on the door. It was their daughter. "Mama? Papa? Charlie says we need to speak with you," she said. They saw their daughter walk in, blood dripping from one hand and the sock puppet on the other, staring at them both. "Charlie already spoke with Jacob and Michael," said the daughter, moving the sock puppet's mouth as if it was speaking. "Now he must speak with you." For weeks, the rich man's house lay eerily silent. The villagers saw no candles in the windows and no smoke from the chimney. They decided to check on the family, and what they discovered shocked them to their very core. In the living room sat the two brothers. Both strong young men had had their heads twisted off and placed on their hands as if their heads were puppets. The same had happened to the parents. who were found dead and decaying in their beds. The most disturbing sight of all was the little girl. She was sitting in the corner of the bedroom, her severed head balanced upon one hand, smiling sweetly with her eyes wide open. On the other hand was the sock puppet. Due to rigor mortis, her arms were sticking out, and it seemed as if the two hands were speaking to each other. Just recently, a family moved into the house. They moved to the country because the family doctor said it might help their sick daughter recover from her illness. Everything was fine until one night, when the mother heard the daughter calling out to her. Before the mother opened the door, she heard her daughter talking. She peeked in, and the girl was fast asleep. "What did she need, honey?" asked the father when his wife returned. The mother paused before speaking. "I have no idea," she said. "The poor little thing must have been talking in her sleep. Do you know where she got that awful sock puppet? She was wearing it on her head, and it almost seemed like it was staring it straight at me." There was once a little girl who had a large collection of dolls. One Christmas, she saw a doll in the window of a department store that she absolutely had to have. It had long, flowing blonde hair and a lovely blue dress. But the thing that impressed her the most about the doll was that it had lovely, bald, purple fingernails. When Christmas morning came, she was delighted to find the doll with the purple fingernails lying under the Christmas tree. She played with it all day, and when she went to sleep, she put it on the table at her bedside. That night, the little girl was awakened by strange noises. It was still dark outside. She looked over for her doll, but it was nowhere to be found. The girl, puzzled, got out of bed and walked into the hallway. The door to her parents' room was ajar, and she pushed it open softly and looked in. Her parents appeared to be sleeping soundly, so she went back to bed. In the morning, she saw the doll with the purple fingernails was sitting on the table by her bed, exactly where she had left it. She assumed that she had just been having a bad dream. But when she went into her parents' room that morning, she found them both lying dead in a pool of blood. They were two purple doll fingernails stabbed into their hearts.
How do you email Santa Claus? This letter to Santa was written by a young girl named Makita who lives in the UK. Her mother found it on her computer, and when she read it, she forwarded it to the local newspaper. Soon, magazines and newspapers across the world were reprinting the letter and claiming that the girl had taken a timeless Christmas tradition for kids and brought it to a scary, creepy, and disturbing new level. Dear Santa, this Christmas I don't ask for much, so if I don't get at least 2 of these things I want, I will literally kill you. Do you understand? Oh, also, I will hunt down your reindeers, cook them, and serve their meat to homeless people on Christmas Day. Nobody wants that. So here's what I want. 1. A Blackberry. 2. Austin and Holy or Justin Bieber, the real ones. 3. Money. 4. Laura knitted 33 jumped her. 5. High top Converse. Remember 2 of these or you die. Love from Akita Janhel Austin, XOXO. Afterwards, the young girl was interviewed and said, I was angry because I thought I wasn't going to get all the presents I wanted this year. Even though my mom found the note, I still think I will get most of the things I want. I don't see any problem with the email. I want all of these things, and I don't see why I shouldn't get them.
It was Christmas Eve, and an 11-year-old French girl named Juliette was decorating the Christmas tree. Her mother was working as a nurse at the local hospital, and the two of them lived alone in the small apartment in the suburbs of Paris. Late that evening, Juliette's mother called to say she wouldn't be home until late that night. Juliette continued to decorate the tree with all of the lovely things her mother had bought at the shop. She draped some multicolored Christmas lights around the tree and hung beautiful ornaments on the branches. After placing the angel on the top of the Christmas tree, she finally finished decorating and sat down to relax and watch TV. Even though she was all alone in the 6th-floor apartment, Juliette felt safe as she gazed out across the lights of the skyline. From her window, she could see the Eiffel Tower. Most of the other tenants in the building had gone home to spend Christmas Eve with their relatives in the countryside. The apartment building was almost deserted. Juliette was growing bored, waiting for her mother to return. Suddenly, she thought she heard a scratching noise at the front door. She turned down the television and listened carefully. There was an eerie silence. Curious, she slowly approached the door and looked through the peephole. To her surprise, she saw a man standing outside, dressed in a red suit with fluffy white trim. He was large and fat with a dirty gray beard and wore a red hat on his head. He knocked at the door loudly. Nervous and concerned, she asked through the door, "Who's there?"
It's Santa Claus.
The man replied.
Let me in. I'm cold, and I'm tired, and I'm hungry.
At this, a chill went down Juliette's spine. She was no dummy. She knew that whoever this creepy man was, he was Santa Claus. "My mother isn't home right now," she said, her voice shaking. "Please leave." Peering through the peephole, Juliette watched as the man's eyes filled with anger and his face twisted into a grimace of hate. He began knocking at the door even harder and rattling the doorknob.
It's Santa Claus, Juliette.
He growled.
Have you laid out some milk and cookies for me, Juliette? You know how much Santa loves his milk and cookies.
The young girl had a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach. How did he know her name? Then the man began kicking and pounding at the door. She peeked out again and saw him reach into his coat pocket and pull out a switchblade. He shoved the knife into the keyhole and tried to pry it open. Juliette was terrified. She didn't know what to do. "If you don't go away, I'll call the police," she shouted. All of a sudden, the knocking stopped. Juliette stood perfectly still, afraid to move. Minutes passed, and she started to think that the man might have been scared away by her threat. She slowly approached the door and looked through the peephole to see if the man was really gone. The hallway seemed to be empty. Suddenly, She saw the man running down the hallway with an axe in his hand. Juliet screamed and ran to the closet in panic. She crouched down and hid behind the coats as tears of fright rolled down her cheeks. She heard the boom, boom, boom as the man tried to smash down her front door. There was a mighty crack as the door gave way and the man came crashing through the splintered wood. Laughing to himself, he called out,
Juliet, my pretty. Where are you, Juliet? Don't be afraid. We'll have ourselves some fun tonight. Where are you hiding?
The crazed intruder walked around the house, searching for the frightened girl. Juliet curled up in the closet, trembling with fear. She dreaded to think what he planned to do with her. Suddenly, the handle of the closet moved up and down. Then the door began shaking and she heard the man's voice laughing.
Juliet, I know you're in there.
He said,
Open up for Santa. Open up before I open you up.
The man swung his axe and it struck the closet door with a huge bang, tearing into flimsy wood. There was another loud crash and the closet doors gave way in a hail of splinters. The horrible man tore the doors off their hinges and thrust his head in between the coats. He was laughing and drooling like a madman as his huge, gnarled hands grabbed at the horrified girl. Juliet held up the pointed end of the coat hanger and bravely thrust it into the man's face. It went straight into his eye. He recoiled in pain, screaming with rage as blood flowed down his cheek. He ripped the wire out of his eye socket and grabbed Juliet by the hair. Then he dragged her, kicking and screaming, out of the closet. The man pushed her to the ground and held her tightly by the neck, leaning over her. Blood spilled out of his eye, splattering all over her face. His mouth twisted into a smile and he whispered in her ear,
Tonight, you will be privileged, my lovely Juliet. I've got a list and I've checked it twice. I'm here to decide if you've been naughty or nice. You can scream and beg for your life. The naughty girls get the axe, and nice girls get the knife.
It was after midnight when Juliet's mother returned home. She saw the front door hacked to pieces and rushed inside to look for her daughter. Gazing around at the carnage, her eyes struggled to take it all in. Then she began screaming in absolute horror. The Christmas tree was decorated with Juliet's entrails, and her severed head was perched on the top. It was around Christmas time, 1995 or 96, at my aunt's house on a reservation in North Dakota. Some of my family was in the living room watching television. The kids were playing in the rooms or sleeping, and my uncle, aunt, and I were sitting at the table putting a puzzle together. My cousin, who worked at a casino, was due home around midnight or 1 a.m. That night, as she pulled up and was walking toward the house, she looked into the window and saw me sitting at the table, my uncle sitting across from me. She also saw someone standing to the left of me and someone standing in the corner. She continued to walk to the house thinking nothing of it. When she got inside, she said her hellos, put her stuff away, and came to join us at the table. As we were sitting there talking, she looked at me and asked who was standing next to me a few minutes ago and who was in the corner. I told her no one, and she said, "Yeah, there was someone standing next to you. It looked like your mom, and she was playing with your hair. I have long hair, which I used to wear down all the time. She said this person was running her hand on my hair as a mother does to a child. It kind of freaked me out, and I was probably only 12 or 13 at the time. My cousin swears up and down that someone was standing over me, rubbing my head and watching me put the puzzle together with my aunt and uncle, and that there was another person standing behind that person. We got around to thinking the second person was probably her mom, who passed away on her birthday a week before Christmas back in 1992, she seemed. In my family, we consider our aunts and uncles to be just like our moms and dads. After thinking that it could have been her, it didn't scare me as much. Around Christmas, something strange almost always happens. We just think it's my mom visiting us.
There was a married couple who had 3 daughters. The oldest was 15, the middle one was 12, and the youngest was 7 years old. For Christmas, the oldest daughter asked for a laptop, the middle daughter asked for an iPad, and the youngest daughter asked for a small doll. On Christmas Day, they all unwrapped their presents beneath the Christmas tree. The oldest and the middle daughter received what they had asked for, but the youngest daughter was surprised to receive a clown puppet. However, the clown puppet was so cute that she decided to keep it. 2 days later, the youngest girl disappeared. The next Christmas, the oldest daughter asked for an iPad, and the middle daughter asked for a clown puppet in memory of her little sister. 2 days later, the middle daughter disappeared. The next Christmas, the last remaining daughter asked for a clown puppet in memory of her younger sisters. 2 days later, she too disappeared. The parents became very poor and were forced to sell their furniture for money. One day, they went into the attic, looking for something else they could sell. There, in a dark recess, they saw the clown puppet. It was sitting on a throne made from lollipop sticks. Arranged all around it were the severed heads of the 3 missing girls.
I hope you enjoyed the scary Christmas tales. Beware, you never know what's lurking in the dark. Have a Merry Christmas.